Laci Peterson, a beautiful 27-year-old, was living the American dream. She was known for her radiant smile and warm personality, which endeared her to everyone she met. Friends and family described her as a kind-hearted and loving individual who always put others before herself. She had a loving husband, Scott, and they were about to welcome their first child, a boy they planned to name Connor. The couple seemed to have it all, a picturesque home in Modesto, California, and a future filled with promise and joy. They were eagerly preparing for the arrival of their baby, decorating the nursery and dreaming of the life they would build together as a family. Laci was 8 months pregnant and filled with joy. She was excited about becoming a mother and often talked about her plans for Connor's future. Her friends would often see her glowing with happiness, and she was the epitome of a joyful, expectant mother. She attended prenatal classes, read parenting books, and couldn't wait to hold her baby in her arms. Her life, however, took a tragic turn that Christmas Eve, leaving a nation in shock and disbelief. On December 24, 2002, Laci went missing, and what was supposed to be a joyous holiday season turned into a nightmare for her family and friends. The community rallied together, holding candlelight vigils and searching tirelessly for any sign of her. Laci's story is one of love, loss, and the enduring mystery surrounding her disappearance. Her family was devastated, and the search for Laci became a race against time. Missing person posters were plastered all over town, and her face became a symbol of hope and despair. The media quickly picked up the story, and soon the entire nation was invested in finding Laci. The case captivated the nation, becoming a media sensation that dominated headlines for months. News anchors reported every development, and the public followed the case with bated breath. The mystery of Laci's disappearance and the subsequent investigation into her whereabouts became a topic of national conversation, with everyone hoping for a positive outcome. It was a story that had it all: a beautiful pregnant victim, a seemingly perfect life shattered, and a husband who became the prime suspect. As the investigation progressed, Scott Peterson's behavior came under scrutiny. His actions and statements raised suspicions, and soon he was at the center of a media storm. The perfect facade of their life began to crumble, revealing cracks that hinted at deeper issues. The disappearance of Laci Peterson is a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the dark side that can lurk beneath the surface of seemingly ordinary lives. The community's concern turned to fear as days turned into weeks without any sign of Laci. Police conducted extensive searches, including scouring nearby lakes and parks, but their efforts yielded no concrete leads. The uncertainty and lack of answers weighed heavily on everyone involved. Her story continues to resonate with people around the world, prompting questions about love, betrayal, and the search for justice. The tragic tale of Laci Peterson serves as a poignant reminder of the unpredictability of life and the importance of cherishing every moment. Her memory lives on through the countless people who were touched by her story, and the ongoing quest for justice ensures that she will never be forgotten. The case remains a symbol of the enduring human spirit and the relentless pursuit of truth, even in the face of unimaginable loss. December 24, 2002, dawned like any other day in Modesto, California. Families prepared for Christmas festivities, their homes filled with the aroma of festive treats. But for the Peterson family, this Christmas Eve would become a nightmare. Laci Peterson was last seen alive on the morning of December 24th. Her husband Scott reported her missing that evening, claiming she had vanished while walking their dog Mackenzie in a nearby park. The news of Laci's disappearance spread quickly, sending shockwaves through the community and beyond. Volunteers rallied, launching a massive search effort to find the missing mother-to-be. The story gripped the nation, with Laci's smiling face appearing on television screens and newspapers across the country. Hope mingled with fear as days turned into weeks, and the search for Laci Peterson intensified. As the investigation into Laci's disappearance progressed, attention turned towards her husband, Scott. The initial days were filled with hope and frantic searches, but as time went on, the focus shifted. The community, desperate for answers, began to scrutinize every detail of Scott's behavior. His behavior, deemed unusual by many, raised eyebrows and fueled suspicions. Neighbors and friends who once saw him as a loving husband began to question his actions. Whispers of doubt spread through the community like wildfire, and Scott found himself at the center of a growing storm. While publicly maintaining his innocence, Scott's actions told a different story. He appeared on television, pleading for his wife's safe return, but his demeanor seemed off. Reporters noted his lack of emotion, and viewers at home couldn't help but feel something was amiss. Scott seemed detached and unemotional in the wake of his wife's disappearance. His blank stares and distant behavior were in stark contrast to the anguish one would expect from a husband in such a situation. Friends and family members began to notice these unsettling traits, further deepening their concerns. His demeanor during television interviews struck many as cold and calculated, lacking the raw grief expected of a husband who had lost his pregnant wife. Instead of tears and desperation, Scott's responses were measured and almost rehearsed, leaving many to wonder if he was hiding something. Adding to the suspicion, Scott's alibi for the day Laci vanished was flimsy at best. He claimed to have been fishing alone, but his story was riddled with inconsistencies. Investigators found it hard to believe that he would choose such an activity on Christmas Eve, a time typically spent with family. Further fueling public distrust, it was revealed that Scott had been having an affair with a woman named Amber Frey. This bombshell revelation shattered any remaining sympathy the public might have had for him. Amber, unaware of Scott's true marital status, came forward with her story, painting a picture of deceit and betrayal. He had kept his marriage to Laci a secret from Amber, claiming to be single and grieving the loss of his wife. This lie, once exposed, cast a dark shadow over Scott, making it difficult for anyone to believe his proclamations of innocence. The public's perception of him shifted dramatically, and he was now seen as a man capable of unthinkable acts. This revelation cast a dark shadow over Scott, painting him as a deceitful husband capable of unthinkable acts. The court of public opinion had already made up its mind, and Scott's every move was now under intense scrutiny. The once hopeful search for Laci had turned into a grim investigation, with Scott Peterson at its dark heart. As weeks turned into months, the investigation into Laci Peterson's disappearance intensified. The community was gripped by the mystery, and the media coverage was relentless. Every new piece of information was scrutinized, and the pressure on the police to find answers grew exponentially. Despite extensive searches and numerous leads, Laci remained missing. Search teams combed through fields, wooded areas, and even water bodies, hoping to find any trace of her. Volunteers joined the efforts, searching tirelessly day and night, their flashlights piercing the darkness in a desperate attempt to bring Laci home. However, a trail of circumstantial evidence began to mount against Scott, casting a dark cloud of suspicion over him. Detectives meticulously examined every piece of evidence, from phone records to witness statements, and slowly, a narrative began to form. Scott's behavior and actions were put under a microscope, and the inconsistencies started to emerge. One crucial piece of evidence was the discovery of Laci's body, along with the remains of her unborn son, Connor, washed ashore in San Francisco Bay. This heartbreaking discovery was a turning point in the investigation. The location was significant. It was near where Scott had admitted to going fishing on the day Laci disappeared. The proximity of the discovery site to Scott's alibi raised even more questions and suspicions. The location was significant. It was near where Scott had admitted to going fishing on the day Laci disappeared. This chilling detail added a new layer of complexity to the case. Investigators began to piece together a timeline of events, trying to understand how Laci's body ended up in the bay and what role Scott might have played in her tragic fate. This chilling discovery shifted the focus firmly onto Scott as the prime suspect in what was now a murder investigation. The evidence, though circumstantial, was compelling enough for authorities to arrest and charge Scott Peterson with the murders of his wife and unborn child. The community watched in shock as Scott was taken into custody, the man who had once been a grieving husband, now accused of a heinous crime. Further solidifying the case against Scott were inconsistencies in his alibi and suspicious cell phone records. Detectives pored over his phone data, uncovering calls and messages that contradicted his statements. These discrepancies painted a picture of a man who was hiding something, and the more they dug, the more they found. His calm demeanor, coupled with his infidelity, painted a picture of a man capable of murder. Scott's behavior during interviews was scrutinized, and his lack of emotion raised red flags. Additionally, his extramarital affair came to light, further tarnishing his image and providing a possible motive for the crime. The evidence, though circumstantial, was compelling enough for authorities to arrest and charge Scott Peterson with the murders of his wife and unborn child. The trial that followed was highly publicized, with every detail dissected by the media. The prosecution presented a case built on a web of circumstantial evidence, while the defense argued for Scott's innocence. In the end, the jury was convinced of Scott's guilt, and he was sentenced to death, leaving the community to grapple with the tragic loss of Laci and Connor.